We were both young when I first saw you. I closed my eyes and the flashback starts. I'm standing there on a balcony in summer air.
See the lights, see the party, the poor girls. See you made your way through the crowd and say hello. Little did I know
That you were Romeo, you were throwing apples, and my daddy said stay away from Juliet. And I was crying on the staircase, begging you please don't go. And I said, Romeo, take me somewhere we can be alone. I'll be waiting. All that's left to do is run. You be the prince and I'll be the princess. It's a love story, baby, just say yes.
On the darkest days in England, the Dutch were falling quietly on houses in the Elsecar village. The last threads of sunlight were faded by the haggard faces on the street. The sight of money always flashed in their eyes, while the treasure they were striving for on the Thames. The sparkle gleamed in the dark. Edward and Laura were holding their hands to slip out the crowd in the Harlem station. They hold their hands tightly from high school, despite a bunch of whispering from their family.
Edward was born in a middle-class family. The father had an affair and divorced his mom. To ease the pressure on his mom's shoulder, he had spent all his weekend burning candle at both ends in a food store nearby. In spite of his underprivilege, he always dreamed of his own restaurant and a decent family with Laura. Sadly, Laura belonged to a notable family, and they always expected Laura to be successfully educated. They had rejected the affection between Edward and Laura for ages. But day by day, week by week, their love blossomed with the flying colors. On the coming day in the winter, the cold breeze swept idly at times. Edward and Laura were on their way home from school. Suddenly, he heard whispering about his mom getting a spinal cord injury at work. The twilight dramatically fell down on his shoulders. He crumpled up in an agony. From that moment, his life turned into another miserable phase. Stop dreaming, stop hoping, stop following. He just confronted the dark life as a pale conqueror. An invisible word was built in his relationship with Laura. He laughed the way the people in his village looked down on him.
As time went by, all of his relentless attempts paid off. He could finally be able to give Laura a home with the moderate finance. Laura was also satisfied with her dream job as a lawyer. They had decided to tie the knot in spite of the prejudices of family and neighborhood. One afternoon, when the sky was turning darker, the breeze cut thick over the empty office where Laura was headed for the work. The frightening silence was suddenly destroyed by the phone ringing. On the spur of the moment, she sensed something nervy in her gut feeling. Laura is hearing. What can I help you?
Edward's wife?
Yeah, what happened, sir?
Your husband, Edward, was fainted while working. Can you?
Where's my husband now?
He's in the Middlewood Hospital. Come here. Hurry up.
At once, she rushed away among the ground. Her beloved husband was unconscious with his pale face on the bed. But what shocked her most was Edward could not work anymore. He might suffer this lung cancer caused by chemical gas in processing steel. After having recovered, he was in extreme desperation because he knew he cannot work anymore. His eyes were totally darkened. He hopelessly strove for the golden shade of pennies, but his shadow failed on his marriage. He had no choice but joined in gambling as the only way to run his home. He regularly attended the Rayhound Racing Club. for the working class, where he risked his money, risked his life to change it. The first race gave him some profits, but fostered him a belief that he would be successful. With more excitement, he readily splurged a hefty amount of money on the game. Unfortunately, that day came. Laura finally discovered old savings in the house disappeared and erased a doubt on what her husband doing.
That morning, he came home from the race in a state of exhaustion. Seeing the mother's husband, tears of anguish filled her eyes. She tried to control, but her heart couldn't. In his disillusion, he kneeled down and heard Tully his voice led.
Laura, I didn't intend to do that. It's just a mistake.
Mistake? No way! Never asking me to forgive! The gloomy air in the house set them apart. Many years of caring for their love and their marriage were going to fade. An invisible wall once again distanced their relationship. Few weeks after that, he was desperate to reach the only one chance to gamble. He hoped it would save his life and his marriage. His mind went blank. He took the marriage keepsake as the last choice for the gambling. He promised to himself that it would be got back when he won this game. Whether or not the keepsake once again acted as a witness for their reconciliation. The sun was out of sight, leaving red light in the wet sky. Edward put on the jacket and nervously went out of the house to the northeast. He pushed the door and came into a pawnshop as always. The shopkeeper sneered at him.
What next? The frag. Redeem or pawn something.
This is the last time. I swear to get it back all as one very soon.
Let me see.
He hesitantly pulled out a box from his jacket, in which a sparkle gold bracelet was wrapped. Carefully, right then, the woman holding hands with the owner walked out of the room. She stared at the closed bracelet. She froze for a while, and then sighed deeply. They catch each other's eyes, and eyes went dark. His mind paralyzed by what was happening. He rushed forward with the anguish firing in his eyes.
Tell me, Laura, why are you here?
What you are thinking is your answer, Edward.
I know it's all my mistake, but you can't betray me this way.
He wished and never let gambling obscure his eye. I need money, but not like the way you get. That's a shame. I got fed up with you.
Laura, you have changed.
Nothing was said more. From that moment, Laura decided to set apart from Edward. She had been living under illusion that the pawnbroker was the missing link in her puzzle life. Unluckily, the golden light just flickered for the seconds and went. The pawnbroker lost his business because of the burden of taxation from the government. Laura had again got stuck. No money, no tax. She couldn't list their life on her rolls with the little dance from paperwork. They started to quarrel about the money needed for living. I have told you to find a new job as one, but you didn't hear a word.
What on earth here? You keep grumbling at money. But did you share the money? You kept it. You crave it. But you didn't strive for it. Shut up.
Laura bursted into tears. She never thought that once again the money brutally stole her man and herself too. From the bottom of her heart, she finally felt Edward. The situation made his life change, but his love did not. Edward never ever made Laura vulnerable, even if he had money or not. Laura still remembered their dark days in the cottage. The only loaf of bread and a slice of ham were kept for only her after a bustling day. The figure Edward trembled and hesitated to pawn the marriage keepsake somehow showed his beloved to her. Everything has gone, just memory stayed. The cold breeze swept swiftly through the red curtain. Laura was about to give her first childbirth of the pawnbroker, but she felt absolutely alone. She deeply pondered whether life would treat this child gratefully or not. I wish I had been a better mom, my dear. She fondled her tummy and sadly whispered.
Sometimes life never treats you the way you want. Laura was diagnosed as diabetic in her pregnancy. She had to risk her health and the baby's life to give birth sooner than expected. The lights in the hospital dimmed as she whimpered bitterly. At that moment, her man worked through her lonesome sick bed. She slowly opened her grief-stricken eyes. And then she burst into tears at what she saw. Edward was here next to her. Edward hadn't been away from her. Edward was always there for her. She couldn't help crying and crying.
I was so sorry. I didn't mean it. I totally regret about it.
Don't worry. You are not lonely anymore. I've been there with you since the last I heard you.
Edward always felt guilty about what he did and inferior to her, so he couldn't help working restlessly to get himself back. From that day, he constantly, secretly followed Laura's life. He knew everything happened to Laura, but he was so self-denial to say a word to her. But at that time, his love stretched over the horizon. He came by her side and made them alive again.
In my whole life, I've been so lucky to meet you and love you. If I'm not in this world anymore, you honestly, truly, and completely deserve a happier life. I'm so sorry.
Don't say so. I believe God sees you, hear you, and God's here for you. We can do it.
After many hours lying half dead, Laura finally overcome the devastating situation, and the baby came in the world. He held the glowing baby in his arm. He looked at the baby and smiled. It looked exactly the same as a smile of a youthful and cheerful Laura. He put the baby next to Laura. He slowly sat down, and they held their hands together. He and Laura finally understood that
Money cannot give us a true happy life. In life, we need not only bread but also roses.